This is the theories and applications of organizational communication, and today we're going to discuss identity, identification, and branding. Individual identity emphasizes distinctiveness over sameness and is actually a relatively modern invention traced to the European Renaissance, where it gets its roots. I think this is a very important point to emphasize before we move forward in the lecture, because individuality, identity, and branding are assumed cultural norms for many people. However, this modern individual society that we find in most Western countries today is not actually a given, and it's not something that's always existed. It's a socially constructed state. Modern individual identity is generally considered something of an elusive quest, not only for individuals, but for organizations, groups of people, nations. Identity tends to be multidimensional and ever-changing for organizations as for individuals. And yet, people and groups seek to find a stable, steady identity that they can rely on, despite the fact that this is generally contrary to the nature of identity. When it comes to identity politics, groups generally strive for acceptance while also showing that they have unique interests and traditions. This is because groups or organizations tend to have the interest of drawing attention, drawing business or new members, or being admired or noticed. However, ironically, despite this interest in originality and uniqueness, there is a lot of imitation found in the creation of identities within organizations and institutions. Organizations not only strive to create an identity or branding, which we will touch on momentarily, but they also may use identity appeals to draw stakeholders because individualism has become so normalized. We live in a world of work, advertising, and politics that use regular appeals to individualism. Particular distinct identities are often emphasized with popular phrases like entrepreneurship, the gig economy, self-reliance, self-branding, expression of your true self, amidst many, many others. These are just a few handful examples of examples. So there are a few different frames for looking at identity and identification, which can help us understand it from different perspectives. So from a functionalist standpoint, identification is the desire and intention to better serve an organization. So identification with an organization means that a person's decisions are influenced by the stories and images about that organization. The more a person identifies with the organization, the better they will serve it, so to speak. From an interpretive standpoint, there is a very different approach to identity, which is that identity evolves through continuous storytelling or accounting for oneself or one's organization. This is how identity evolves in a sense. So these stories are a kind of feedback loop for groups, especially during critical junctures or ethical challenges. Critically speaking, identities are shaped, constrained, and undermined by power, often in subtle ways. For instance, we can other groups by applying certain labels or using certain images, and we can privilege certain groups by doing the same. Regarding branding, identity and branding are clearly interrelated. Branding generally tends to be a central driving force to create a single, unified identity and message about an organization or even an individual. So when people think about an organization, the goal is that this identity comes to mind. These messages come to mind. It can be powerful in drawing members or business or votes or securing particular organizational goals. That's it for now. The next topic we're going to cover is emotions and relationships.